Rhythm, melody, and harmony are the three elements of music. In all of the videos so far, we've basically been dealing with rhythm and melody. And by melody, I'm referring to the linear or horizontal succession of sequences of pitches. So far, we've restricted this to scales and scale exercises, but melodies are also little phrases of notes that move horizontally in time. And by rhythm, I mean the placement and time of notes by means of various note durations and rests that we've looked at. But we haven't looked at harmony yet. Harmony is the use of simultaneous notes. We call these chords. Studying harmony begins with studying how chords are constructed and how they connect to each other in what are called chord progressions. When reading and writing music, harmony is what's notated vertically as opposed to melody, which is notated horizontally. So far we've looked at various major and minor scales. Each degree of the scale has characteristics that contribute to our feeling of orientation, our sense of key in the tonal center, and where we are in the key. Now the tonic, the root note, is the defining strongest note that gives us our sense of key. All the other degrees in the scale are various distances from the tonic. Let me just play a C major scale and show you what I mean. That's our strongest note. All other notes lead there. That gives us our sense of key and root. It roots us in the tonality of C. Now, in the series of overtones and partials, the third and fifth degree of a scale, the mediant and the dominant, as they're called, are the next in line in terms of the strong power of attraction that the root note has. They're considered to be principal tones, and they form points of repose in the scale. So they're strong notes. They give us a strong sense of the key as well. The remaining degrees of the scale can be considered passing tones and are dependent in nature. Their melodic role is to offer stepwise transition from one principal tone to another. So there's one passing tone between the root and third. So it can consider that D in the key of C to be a passing tone. And then one passing tone between the third and the fifth. And then there are two passing tones between the fifth and the eighth degree. So I'm accenting the stronger tones here, the principal tones. And these passing tones are also commonly referred to as neighboring tones, in that their function is to decorate the principal tones. And there are different types of neighboring tones, incomplete neighbors and complete neighbors, but I'm not going to get into that at this moment right now. Now, because of these principal and dependent qualities between the notes in the scale, certain notes are strongly attracted to resolve to principal tones. For example, there's a strong pull of the leading tone wanting to resolve to the octave, or of the fourth degree, the submediant, wanting to resolve downwards to the third, or the mediant. So we have a strong pull of that note wanting to lead us up to there. And we sense a bit of tension. And finally, the resolution of landing at the home base or the tonal center. Same thing with the fourth degree. A little bit of tension wants to resolve down to there because the third defines it as the major key. Now, when you play these two together, you get a real sense of tension and release. Let me show you our first example here. And here I have in the key of C playing the fourth and the seventh degree, and then the seventh resolving up to the tonic, or the octave, and the fourth resolving down to the third. So the leading tone moving up to the octave, and the fourth resolving to the third. And let's listen to that. Let me turn off the click here. Again. So we really get that sense of resolution. And if we invert them, we have the same thing here with the fourth up high leading down to the third, and then the leading tone there going up to the tonic. So we really get a sense of that feeling of tension and then being resolved or led back to home base, the tonal center. And this works the same in any key. Let's look at another example in F. Here's an F scale just to orient you to this key. So same thing, we have the leading tone going up to the tonic, and then the subdominant going down to the mediant. And same thing inverted here. Same thing, tension and landing at home. Just a different inversion. So a chord is basically a set of harmonically related notes that are heard simultaneously. The most basic types of chords are triads. What we've just looked at and listened to are considered to be dyads, since they only involve two notes sounding at the same time. But as you would expect from the name, a triad consists of a group of three notes. Triads can have four different qualities. They can be either major, minor, augmented, or diminished. So let's look at them in their most basic form, the major triad. So a triad is therefore a three-note chord, and it's usually stacked in thirds. So if we build a triad based on the tonic of the scale, we get the three strong principal tones, the root, the third, and the fifth degree of the scale. Now this triad built on the tonic gives us a very strong sense of the tonal center of the key that we're in. The tonic forms the backbone or the foundation of the tonality of the key. So let's go back to C, and again I'll just orient you by playing the C scale quickly. Principal tones. And if we play the first, third, and fifth degree all together, we get a triad built on the tonic, a major triad. Now triads can be built starting on any note in the diatonic scale, and each of these triads serve different diatonic functions. They have different qualities and characteristics and personalities to them. But triads that are built on the tonic, the subdominant, and the dominant degrees are what we call primary triads. They indicate a strong sense of the tonal center. Now the tonic, by defining it clearly, and the dominant triad by creating tension that wants to resolve to the tonic, offer us the strongest triads that we can get in any given diatonic key signature. And the subdominant, by creating a kind of secondary tension, creates a triad that wants us to lead to the dominant. Let's look at some examples here. Here's the C triad that I just played. And just a couple of bullet point notes. The triad built on the tonic of the C major scale is this one right here, and it consists of the root, third, and fifth degrees, 1, 3, and 5, and all the principal tones, which give us a strong sense of the key's tonal center. Now, if we build a triad on the dominant, we get a triad starting on the fifth degree. So here, we get a triad built on the fifth degree, and again, built in thirds. So we can summarize here by saying this triad is built on the fifth degree of the C major scale, and it's called a dominant. The G is the dominant function in the C major scale, so this is a dominant triad. It creates a feeling of tension which wants to resolve. There's our root triad, and there's our dominant triad. Root, dominant, root. So that dominant wants to resolve to the root. So this kind of tension that it creates is predominantly from the tension of the leading tone wanting to resolve to the tonic of the key, this B natural. Remember we talked about the leading tone wanting to resolve to the octave. Well, this B draws us to want to move up to the C. And of the dominant wanting to resolve to the octave, that G wants to move up to the C. So the intervals of a semitone and of a perfect fourth are the strongest, oops, little spelling mistake here, strongest intervals in terms of defining the tonal centers. So this is a strong pull as well as that. So that interval of a fourth from the dominant up to the tonic is a strong pull. And then we have the second degree of the scale over here, the D, which pulls us down to the tonic, to the C, the neighboring tone, or the passing tone, which wants us to go down. So this whole chord is really a series of tensions that want to be resolved. Now let's look at the subdominant triad over here. This is a chord built on the fourth degree, called the subdominant in the C major scale. And that sort of wants us to lead to the dominant, which brings us to the root. So let me play these a bit for you. And I'll pull this up so you can see the notes as I'm playing them. So let me orient you with the scale again. Tonic, dominant, tonic, that natural resolution, and then subdominant, dominant, tonic. Kind of a secondary tension that wants us to go here, but we're still not fully home yet. There we go. So in conclusion, so far we can say that the diatonic triads built on the tonic, the subdominant, and the dominant are major triads. The dominant triad gives us a sense of wanting to pull us towards the tonic, and the subdominant triad offers a secondary type of tension that draws us to the dominant triad, where we still want a sense of resolution and get drawn to the tonic. So this is some basic tertian harmony. That's another word for triads, tertian meaning 3. And triads, again, can be built on any degree of the scale. So that's it for now. Get this under your belt. Try it in some different keys. And we're going to continue exploring it in more detail in the next video.